you ever hear the Rachel Carson Trail Challenge?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
where I'm at, it's a big race. It's actually in my backyard. And I wasn't racing today, but I got my GoPro and a buddy with me, and we went out there and filmed the whole race from the front pack, dude. And
Oh, that's awesome.
well, you know how in ultra distance, it's usually not really a race. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes it is, sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But
Yeah.
today it was crazy, man. The last year's winner was there, and he's a really good runner. He's really unassuming, and he doesn't even wear a watch or nothing. Last year he had road shoes on. Okay.
Oh,
And
geez. Yeah.
yeah, he's a nut, dude. And he's flying. Okay. And the whole race, it was the top three, and there was Anna, gosh, what was his name? Kevin and Bill. All right. But so it's getting towards the end. Bill gets lost. Okay. Because there's no markers because it's a trail challenge. So it's like you have to navigate yourself. So he gets lost. And then Kevin comes running down. We're like, where's Bill? And he's like, we didn't see him. He's like, oh shit. Well, now he's in first place. Okay. And then we see Bill, and he's a little bit flustered and frustrated. But I start pumping him up. I'm like, dude, this is your race. You got to go get after it. And dude, he closed the gap and ends up winning. And then,
wow.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was cool. And it's going to be a cool story.
That's awesome.
A cool story to tell. Yeah. Yeah, man. How's your day going?
Good. How are you able to film episode? Were you able to get like different checkpoints for this race to like
this? The amount of access points in this on this trail is ridiculous. It's crazy because it connects all these little towns together through whatever little woods there are in those towns.
Yeah.
So it's cool, man, because there's like at least 20 access points. So it was just awesome. All day long. We were just hopping back and forth, and I got a drone too. So it was really cool. And I got this thing in my head where I was like, because when you're running, your only objective is just to move yourself to the finish line. It's just one thing. It just get to the finish line. But when you're filming from the front, dude, you're going to be responsible and think about a trillion things. I'm like, dude, being crew is way harder than running. Because in running, it's just you go and everyone takes care of you, right? But people who don't take care of the person crewing or nothing like that.
It's a much different mentality for that sort of thing, filming and crewing.
Yeah, I'm taking to it, man, and I really do think it's I was joking with my buddy, but I was serious at the same time. If we could get some commentary on that and a couple more films, people would watch that. It was exciting, dude. I was like pumped up out there watching and running with these runners. But then I was thinking too, I was like, well, it takes people like me and you to be able to keep up with the front runners to even get filmed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was putting like 1 or 2 mile sections in with them, and my heart rate would go to like 160, and then I just sit down, and then I'd go to 160 and sit down. But it was fun, man. I had a lot of fun. So I'm riding a high right now, and I didn't even have to race. So how are you recovering? Awesome. Everything good?
Everything's good. I've sort of been easing back into it. I've I did a little bit of biking just to sort of stretch the legs out right afterwards. And I just felt like that was the easiest way to do it. But I felt like the first couple of times I had to be real careful with my heart rate. I felt like I was able to do okay aerobically, but then after a period of time, it just felt like I was getting heavy, tired, and it just had to make sure I was being consistent, because I look at following everyone else on Strava now from the race, because that was the best thing about the race. Like you get like 50 new Strava requests, and you follow people and you see how what they're up to. But like Tristan, for example, was like, I feel like did a 30-mile run like a couple days out. So now it's just like, man, my body's not quite there yet. I need to.
And then how much of that is based off of the amount of effort you've laid down that day, man? You know what I mean? Like, because I was just looking at your heart rate, and we can get right into it. I'm going to just start recording, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just have the free Zoom, so it's only going to allow me to get 40 minutes.
Okay.
And then we're just going to record on here. But, man, like your average heart rate was 157. I couldn't get mine anywhere. Is that normal for you? Like a 157 heart rate?
Yeah, it is. I think part of it is because most of the workouts that I was doing, to be honest, was like 4 mile, like tempo type running, and it was on the road, so it was at a quicker pace. So I think just when we slowed the pace down for this race, I think that just helped keep the heart rate at a reasonable pace. I will say though, there were definitely times where I felt like it was much higher, especially on some of those climbs, like coming out of aid station 4, and you go across the road and you just got a straight uphill, and I was just like, even power hiking it felt like my heart rate was high.
And I have a lot of questions about your training, but like this is real impromptu. So I just figure like, let's just turn this and make this about you and your race experience and some questions about you, because I'm sure people are going to be really interested to just the stuff like that. So real quick, I was just stalking your ultra sign up. So first place at World's End 100K, Okay, 5th place at JFK, and the world's on 100K. You were only 4 minutes off the course record, and that was your first 100K. And I'm pretty sure that was your first super technical full-on trail run like that, which is just crazy to think what would happen if you just altered your training a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then here's what I really thought was impressive: 2 first-place finishes at the Shegahunda, is that how you say it? Shegahunda Trail Marathon, but one was in 2013 and one was in 2022. That's 9 years apart. So it's like I guess a question for you is like, how did you get into running and what has kept you in it and competitive for this long? Because if you guys want to feel bad about yourself, go check out Justin Scheid. Scheid. Okay. Scheid on Ultra sign up, and you'll feel very bad about yourself because they're either all first place or second. And then there's some off chance ones, but there's a lot of shorter distance stuff. So I know that was a lot at once, but I was really impressed with all of it. And then to see how all that accumulated somehow to almost breaking the course record at World's End in your first attempt. So the question, I guess, is how did you get into running, and like, where did it all start with you?
Yeah, so it started for me. My dad ran through college and just was trying to run around work. And so, to be honest, I think like some others that start younger, right? You grew up playing soccer, wrestling, whatever we have. My wrestling was big in our family, but what happened was I kind of didn't even make the CYO basketball team.
Okay.
But even despite that, I would just go home. I remember like my first workout, just running around the neighborhood with my dad, 1,200 meter loop, right around the development. Nothing special, not technical. But I enjoyed it. It was a way to spend time with him. He would take me to some of the races, like he would do a 5K. And they would usually have like a kids run the day before. So most of my first races were like the kids sprints, at age 10. 10 through 12. And then he sort of became my first coach. I can remember back to my first workout that I ever did was like a hill workout, was run hard between one mailbox and the next, and then jog between that mailbox and the next one, and just hit it on repeat. And it was at the time, like growing up, I mean, there were no GPS watches, there was no like heart rate monitors, so it was just had my little Timex watch and just go out for a run and say, I think that was about 4 miles or something like that. But that precipitated into running for the middle school team, and then running through high school, and then was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to run collegiately.
Oh wow.
Division I. So that sort of trends. But you're absolutely right. Looking at Strava Plus, like most of my running was road. We had some rail bed trails where I live, and I would love going there. And especially getting on soft surfaces, but nothing that technical that would sort of prepare you from a World's End Tour standpoint until really the last couple of years. I was just I would go over to, we have a park nearby, still not as technical, doesn't have the rocks, but it has like the roots and it has twists and bends. And I just felt like that was sort of my training, was just started getting over there on the weekends. The weekdays I would get in what I could. Weekends I would get out, go to parks. You're absolutely right. Maybe in hindsight, it would have been good to try to preview the course a little bit, camp out over at World's End, do some segments. But I also think it was nice to sort of see it fresh and firsthand experience, because I didn't really have any nerves about anything. I didn't know like, hey, if you preview the course, like, oh shoot, at mile 19, there's this huge hill. Right. And you can follow the map. It looks like an EKG, but at the same time, just going into it with no expectation, you're just like, you're just gonna react to what you see.
And I have so many things to say about that. But how old are you now?
So I'm 37.
Okay, so you figure that's 27 years of instilling a movement pattern into you and perfecting that with great success. It looks like at least as far back as 2010. But if you made Division I, so what I mean, man, it's like you're a model example, because I do performance strength and conditioning coach. That's what I do. I have my business, and I geek out over this stuff. I just love it, because I think like I could take someone like you, or I just look at someone like you, and I'm like, okay, what if you specialized? Because you're just so generally amazing at the craft of running. And I just imagine like your intuition and your turnover, and you don't need a watch, you don't need a heart rate. I'm sure your level of feel and so there's just so much with the mindset that if we could just take you and then just specialize, dude, trail running might be your niche too, because it's like fast road runners for some reason just do so well when they just switch over from a fast track or fast road and switch to trail, because it's like trail runners don't do speed work. You know what I mean? So once you get comfortable on the technique and the footwork, and then just the uphill and downhill strength, I mean, yeah, man, it's exciting to see, because not to get too far ahead of ourselves, because I really do want to talk about World's End, but I did see you were signed up for Never Summer 60K.
Yeah.
That's a mountain race, man.
Yeah.
But that's like 10,000 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know?
Yeah. So we just happen to be out on vacation out there.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I just want to get just to do something out there. So so we'll see how
that's what runners do, right? On vacation, we just need to do something, just a little something, a little 60K, 10,000 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
We got to keep that on the down low. I don't want to get my wife too amped up about it. She'd be super nervous.
She's super supportive, or she's supportive.
Absolutely. I think it's just she's going to be very nervous out in a place that neither of us really know, and
Colorado,
she's not going to be able to get out there. So, but it'll be good. So she'll be out there with me, but I don't know how many aid stations she's going to be able to get to it. She might just be waiting at the start finish area.
Right.
But I saw that you were signed up for a 100-miler, I think, later this year.
Guess what today is? Today is June 18th, which means Tahoe 200 registration opens, and my name's on that list, baby. So let's hope it gets pulled from the lottery. I'm hoping, man, because I'm real big on my whole thing is mindset, and I'm not going to make this about me. I'm just going to say my whole big thing is about mindset and overcoming your self-limiting beliefs. So for me, I do that by having just big, huge goals, big, grand goals that scare me, but they give me a reason to get out of bed and go train and just to be better. And what better than a whole long year goal? I'll be motivated for a whole year. You know what I mean? So it's like, and 200 distances are so new. We don't even know what the actual proper training is, the proper body type. So who knows, man? Maybe my body type is like, maybe you need to be like a Hummer. Maybe you need to be slow and just instead of like a Ferrari like yourself, man. It's like, maybe you just need to have that. So, and because I got the mindset, man. So I'm excited. I hope I get in, but if not, I'll pick something else. But Cloud Splitter's next. Awesome. Cloud Splitter's next for me, and training for that starts next Monday. So,
okay, got it. Yeah, I was going to say, I just wanted. I know quickly. I just wanted to see like sort of how your body's doing, and then in prep for that. So you've been taking some downtime to get ready for this next training block. For the
So I do a lot of. I believe I'm a real big believer in general physical preparedness. So it's real simple analogy is imagine just a sword. So your general physical preparedness is preparing you and lengthening that sword. And then before the race, you specify and you sharpen that sword. But racing, you break that tip off. So you want to re-establish some length into that sword. And for me, that's strengthening all the running muscles, but more importantly, the tendons and joints that support running, because running is a tendon dominant stretch reflex reaction. And I heard this, I don't know how accurate it is, but they say Eliud Kipchoge's tendons and ligaments are 7 times stronger than the average person. And if you don't know who Eliud Kipchoge is, just go look him up, because he's the most savage runner you ever see. Okay. Yeah. And it's so I'm doing a lot of just this general physical strength work. And I actually am going to get my bike fit because, well, I'm just going to go on this tangent because I know you'll appreciate it. Two runners can geek out over this. So I'm real big into like just observing what makes great runners great. And trail running, I don't know if you're new to the community, but the Europeans dominate trail running. Okay. Yeah, they're just savages. But you know what they do all off season? They Nordic ski. So, but we don't have that here. We don't have Nordic skiing. So all we do all year long is just run. But here's the thing about Nordic skiing. You can get running like heart rate, running like muscles, no impact. Yeah. So what is the closest thing we can do here is bike. So I'm going to get my bike fit Tuesday, and I'm hoping to put like 200 to 300 miles on my bike weekly for the next month or two. And then 2 days a week, do specific hill work. So just hill repeat, just smash the hill. So I'll get my climbing legs, very small impact, and then just biking the rest of the week to build that huge base. And then the last 2 months before the race, just totally specific, no strength training, no nothing, just race specific. And it's really, so I do a lot of weird stuff like that. I don't think it's weird. I just think my stress management is really well, and it prevents me from getting injured a lot for being the size I am and running as much as I do and stuff. It's like, I really have to just manage my stress well. So how was your training building up into World's End?
Yeah. So I'm with you in the same mentality. It's funny just watching I love to watch the Olympics, all sports, Winter Olympics as well. I love to watch like the biathlons, see they do the cross country skiing come in, but then you got to settle your heart rate down enough and shoot. But one of the things I always remember was like, there was I think it was a Swedish speed skater in like the 10K. I think it was like Niels van der Poel.
Okay.
And they were saying like his preparation, like out of season, he does marathons, he does bicycle race, like he biked around like the entire country of Sweden. Yeah. It's just amazing what certain athletes do sort of out of season as sort of like a supplemental training plan.
Right.
And I think that's great. Like I've gotten into biking more recently, and it's been the same thing. Part of it is because I'm not like 120 plus mile a week runner. And so to me, it can supplement, someone that runs 80 miles, but maybe puts you on par with somebody that's running 100 miles or so by getting in a few bike rides.
Yeah. And I think that's good. So what is your weekly mileage, and like, how do you structure your training? Do you have a coach or anything, or you just been doing this long enough to know what your body needs?
Yeah, I have a coach actually. So I run for a team called Shore AC. It's based down the shore in New Jersey. But a few of us live up in northern parts of New Jersey, and so he lives in like this same county. And it's been great. He sort of gives me workouts. He doesn't give me mileage, so that's sort of up to me and how my body feels.
Yeah.
But he'll suggest like workouts, and again, a lot of them has predominantly been tempos. Yeah. Sometimes I do like track workouts because it's just really what I focused on for World's End was the volume on the weekends. And so back-to-back long runs were critical in my training block. But the workouts during the week, it was almost like I was training for a road race. It was like 4-mile tempo. And then sometimes it was like just turn the legs over, get some speed. And I will say anybody who's doing back-to-back long runs, there is times where you do not feel good, especially day 2. It's a slog. You're just fighting to just get the mileage in. It's sometimes you're looking at your watch. It's almost like you're on for those out there who don't like running on the treadmill, which myself included. Yeah. And on the treadmill, I'm looking at my watch every minute. Right. That's sort of what it feels like sometimes on those double long runs. Like you're 12 miles in, you're trying to get 16 or 20, and you're just like, man, it's just this mile feels like it's the longest mile ever. Yeah. But I think that was the way to do it. And I was doing that for maybe 4 to 5 weeks, and I was doing it in a way that, I would start out by saying, let me try to run 16 miles one day and 16 the next. And then the following week I'd do like 18 and keep it at 16, and then sort of climb a ladder in that way. So I wasn't getting too far too quick. And then you're spot on. The Segahunda race that I jumped in this year was sort of 3 weeks out. And that was sort of my final sort of just long run. That's what I just wanted to do. I just wanted to do a long run, get a good effort. Unfortunately, the weather did not cooperate. It was like 90 degrees that day. We knew at the start it was going to be hot and humid. And I ended up doing more walking even on flat sections than I anticipated, but it kind of puts a little bit of doubt when something like that happens. Like, hey, I'm 3 weeks out from World's End. But at the end of the day, I think the time on feet was most important. The fact that I was out there for a marathon, it was over 4 hours. It was not, 4,000 feet. I think it was only like 2,500 feet of elevation gain. Does have a lot of sort of like stream crossings and some turning, but all in all, for a trail run, it was a very nice course. And I felt terrible after finishing it. But then in hindsight, I think just being out there for over the 4 hours was probably the A goal in terms of preparation for Western States. For World's End. Yeah,
World's End. Yeah, Western State qual. It is a Western State.
That's on the goal. That's on the goal list. I mean,
that's right up your stuff, man. That's fast. That's a fast race. But real quick, just to touch on your training, just to give people an overview of kind of what you were saying, or maybe my interpretation of it is, you've been doing this for so long that your running base is solidified. I would imagine that if you took an off season, your base would take you about maybe a month or 2 months just to get back. Most people would never. Okay. So that means it's solidified. Okay. So once you have a solidified base, then you can just work on, think of 2 ends of the spectrum. So you did the super long distance back to back on the weekends. That's your low endurance. Then you did your speed work, which is the top of the end of the spectrum. That's your super fast tempos. Right. And then you perfected both ends and you raced in the middle. Right. Yeah. So basically you accomplished, you came, why that wouldn't work for most people is because they would get injured because you have to understand that this man is solidified. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Like his body knows what it's doing. When he runs, his default position is correct. His default position is correct form. When he's tired, his default position is correct form. Okay. That's from years and years. So the average person needs to just pick their zone 2 heart rate and just put their miles in and build the base up. Then you can get to the place where he's at, where he can just specialize and just hammer the fast runs and then hammer back-to-back runs and feel like wake up the next morning and be like, what's for breakfast? No big deal, And so I just want to clarify that, man, because, remember, this man is really unassuming, but he's speaking from a place of a lot of experience and really expertise, whether he knows it or not, So something I was really impressed with was your aid station transition. So my girlfriend got you a lot in the aid stations. You spent 0 time. Was any of that planned? Did you have like an aid station plan? And also, what was your nutrition plan during the race?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. So my parents came out, since we only live about 2.5 hours away from World's End. My parents came out, my wife came out, and that was sort of my crew. Um, we packed a lot more stuff than I ended up using just because I remember seeing this in actually one of your videos previously about, runners going into these ultra races, going to aid stations, starting to take food that they are not accustomed to taking because it's not food they take during their training.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be very careful about that, especially as my first real ultra run, because to be honest, JFK 50, while a great race, it doesn't have the technicality that World's End does. It's got basically a marathon on sort of a flat towpath. So while your pace is much quicker, I felt like this marathon was just going to beat me up a lot more, especially my quads and calves are probably going to be much sore from just going up and down repeatedly. And so for me, from a nutrition standpoint, my plan was with the vest I had one bottle of water, one bottle of like electrolyte mix. And my plan was to just get to the aid station, sort of refill those, and then also refill if I took one or two goos or whatever I ate during that segment, replenish that and just grab two or three. And so when I came into the aid stations, once I noticed that there was the aid station ahead, I would start unscrewing the tops of the water bottles. I would sort of like try to say the number of like goos. My wife was trying to figure that out. My parents were handling the water. And so the transitions early on were very swift. I was sort of in and out without too much difficulty. It was sort of the later ones, sort of like aid station, like when you're out of Brunendale at aid station 10.
Like
that one I spent a little bit more time.
The one you didn't even get to see.
Yeah, not that. Yeah, not
get
that.
Support at. That one. Yeah, I can see how that would be a little troubling to not have any support when you're looking for that, man. That was that's craziness, But
it was. I would say I couldn't believe that, like, their location for those two aid stations that they just put water out on the course. So those are why there's two aid stations that were just water and that sort of in the middle. One was in the middle of the woods. The other one was really on top of it, up in a grass field. But both of those, I felt like I had just sort of run very low on water in both of those times. And so I stopped at both of those to refill water again, because I wasn't familiar with the course. I didn't know how much more up and down there was going to be between the next full aid station. So, but for me to answer your question about the nutrition, predominantly goos. I had some waffle, like some of those honey stinger waffles, because those are what I was eating after I was doing my long runs, or what I was carrying with me during my runs.
Did you have a plan to eat at any certain time? Was there like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So really, I focused on the nutrition right at the beginning too. So like even when we were out in the dark in the first couple of miles, I had like these little like energy chews that I would just sort of like pop one in my mouth just to be doing it. Like, so even when we were like on the first climb before we even got to aid station 1, I was already eating, had eaten a little bit of nutrition. And then when we got to the aid station, my wife handed me the waffle. It tasted super dry when you're trying to drink water with it. But it was easier to get down. As the race progressed, it became more difficult. And the goos, I actually relied more on the goos afterwards.
So real quick, actually, and I want you to try this for me, and just maybe in training. So I used to be big on the honey stingers, but that's why I quit doing them, because they're so dry. So I switched to maple syrup, like maple syrup and water. Yeah, and it works so freaking well. But then the same thing, after a while, you lose taste and then you switch to goos. But the only reason I like the honey stinger so much is because they have 4 grams. I'm pretty sure it's 4 grams of fat in each one too. And people don't realize that's very sustaining. And you coming from a very fast road running background, your intensity levels on the road are so high, your digestive system can't work. So if you would try to really eat anything other than like 1 or 2 goos over the marathon distance on the road, you're pretty much going to puke, because the intensity levels and the impact is just so high. But in these endurance events, you can't have that same intensity. So you get to slow down more, but you're putting out more energy for longer durations. So you have to put that in, and you're going to find your own rhythm over time. Because it really becomes an eating event, man. If you can't keep energy in, you can't keep putting energy out. And I've worked my way, and you can train it. I'm all the way up to 330 calories an hour.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a big sweater. So that's something, but you didn't have a problem with that either. I mean, I don't know. Like when I watched the video, I was really impressed. And, you'll be happy to hear this or freaked out to hear this, but the little cutout, the race results, I cut it out and put it over on top of my bathroom mirror. So every time I'm getting ready in the morning, and people was like, don't beat yourself up. Why? I mean, it's just, you can't compare. I was like, what do you mean? I'm not comparing myself. I'm thoroughly impressed that someone's able to run that. And it motivates me to like, well, what am I willing to sacrifice to try to get to that number? And that's why I wanted to do this interview, because I want to hear what it takes to run a time like that. And it just makes me think, man, if you put in a couple years, not even a year of just solid trail running, it's like, what race could you not win? and that's pretty exciting. That's a whole new, because what, 37 you said?
Yeah, so I'll be 37 in November. Yes,
that just opens up a whole new door, right? You've been on this running path, which is a big, broad path, but it has small offshoots, right? Like there's all these little niches, and it's like you never know which one you're going to stumble upon and be like, man, I might be really good at this one, And then that's why I want to try the 200, because you don't know until you try.
Don't know until you try.
I might be a 200 expert, guys. It's like it's unlikely, but I'm not going to count myself out because,
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And you got to do it. I mean, you did the Black Forest, which is at night. I mean, so you got accustomed to running at night. You got these ones.
I'll do the 100-miler too, man. And I'll make the most of it. So it's like, yeah. So did you meet your expectations for the race, or did you far surpass them, or?
Yeah. So I think for me, I was certainly aware of the course record. And when my parents were at the aid stations, they were trying to tell me, hey, and then even at some of the earlier stations, hey, you're on pace record. And I was trying to say, listen, I just want to focus on, what I'm doing. I want to focus on getting the nutrition in. Even though the weather didn't seem to affect me, I could definitely feel it warming up throughout the day. Maybe that was also as my fatigue level was increasing. And so when I got to the later age stations, I really put the course record attempt just aside. And I was looking at my watch at the mile splits. Yes, I could calculate roughly how far, but I will say too, is one thing that maybe helped in putting it out of mind was that when I got, so Brunendale Aid Station 10, I think it's supposed to be like 50 miles. There were exactly 50 miles in the race. My watch showed it as 48 and a half. I didn't know it was 50. So I was under the impression I was already sort of behind, because I was under the impression of my watch showing 48 and a half miles that there was no, hey, this isn't possible. But again, I certainly think from the expectations from a nutrition standpoint exceeded my expectations. The fact that I was able to get food, get gels. There was only one time in the race, and it was on one of those long downhills, that my stomach felt empty. And I just reached for a goo, because exactly as your point, for someone like myself who's new to trail running, as many of those out there are, the way you try to look at nutrition is you try to read books and see what other people do, and sort of try to base your diet and base your fluids on what other people are doing. And so whenever I go to these races, and sometimes like the Hoka professional runners would be there, I try to follow them on Strava, and then you can get a sense of like what their training is. And sometimes they'll even share like what they use as nutrition. And I just try to do that during run. It is difficult to replicate it when your training runs are only like, maybe you're getting up to 4 hours and you're doing a race that's now taking you closer to 11 hours. And the heat, the weather may have something to do with it. We were fortunate, I have to admit, relative to the weather. Last year's race temperatures got into the 90s. We started off, many runners, myself included, started in a long sleeve. And even at the end, it got up to like 70 something degrees. So it was a very low humidity. So we had absolute gorgeous weather for the race. So I think everything clicked for me. But yes, as my first 100K goes, it exceeded my expectations, which was just to get out there, get the nutrition right, and just keep running. Do I wish I would have been able to run some more of the hills that I walked? Absolutely. But I feel like that's everyone out there probably 2020 hindsight. You look back and you say, yeah, there's small things I could have done differently. And those are things I can take with me into training for the next time. Is, maybe I need to try to find a place where I can get a little bit more elevation for, a handful of miles. But
and that for sure. And then to think about, it's like, what if I try to take my clients through nutrition as part of the sport, like part of the discipline of the sport. In endurance running, it really becomes that. So we need to know almost exactly at your race pace heart rate how many calories you're consuming and how many you're burning. Because once that ratio becomes too deficit, well, maybe you walk the hills because of the ratio, or maybe it was training. I don't know. I'm just putting you never know. And then you analyze and you really try to figure it out. And one tip we do with my clients is the last couple big runs, we force feed in the morning, but we force feed with white rice and maple syrup and a little bit of a fat source. So you take like 600 to 800 calories 45 minutes before your long run. How uncomfortable and how much just stress is in your stomach. Well, it's training the ability to hold that down and digest it at a low intensity heart rate, roughly somewhere between 70% of your max. Do you know your max heart rate?
Yeah, so I don't. I think it's gotten up to like 180 something before, but it could even be higher. So I don't know.
That was just that was a selfish question.
No, it's a good question. I would tell you if I knew. But I absolutely agree with everything you said, and that's why for me, if the food, like when I got to the aid stations, I was even taking pickles. I used to do pickle juice sometimes. That I felt was great. Following Tristan at aid station 1, I saw him grab watermelon, so I sort of grabbed the same thing. Just I was like, hey, this guy just did a 100-mile race 3 weeks ago. If the watermelon works for him, like it's gonna work.
Yeah, you're like a blank template. It's like you're just talking so unassuming about everybody you demolished. You know,
Yeah,
and it's but no, it shows the ability to stay fresh and continue to learn. And it's probably one of the main keys to your success thus far is your ability to not judge and be closed-minded in situations and say, hey, I'm new here. Even though that I'm a good runner, I'm new and I'm going to take the time to learn and see what these other people are doing, man. But I'm saying, man, it's like, if you're coming in that fresh, give yourself a year and maybe get like a trail running coach or just get immersed in the trail running community and ask as many questions as possible. You can ask me anything. And then like, I'm really going to be impressed what happens, man. Seriously. Seriously. And in ultra endurance, they don't reach their peak until their late 30s, which is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
You look at marathoners and I feel like Elliot Kipchoge and you know, 36, 38, that's sort of like the peak for men for the marathon.
Their story is similar to yours. They started at 10. They didn't reach their peak because they started after college, you know, and that doesn't kind of work. You know what I'm saying? It's a mature peak. There's, you know, so we could leave it at that. But I really had a question. Where were you the most sore, the day or the 2 days after the race?
So I would say for me, it actually, I was expecting it to be day 2. I think it was actually day 1. And again, part of that is just probably my unassuming nature of just not knowing what I was in for. Yeah. I just been running for that duration. Right. So when I got out of bed the next day, I was actually surprised my arms hurt. Like where I was like, cause did
you have any bruise on your ribs?
Yeah.
Were you a bruise on your ribs at all from the water bottle? I get bad bruises on my ribs from the water bottles.
I had that. I had a little bit of chafing under the arms, but that wasn't too bad. It was just like trying to stretch your arms out all the way afterwards. It just felt tight. And I was like, wow, this is what I meant. So like getting out of bed the next day, the day 2 was, I was expecting it to be much worse. It was sort of at the same pain tolerance as what day 1 was.
No lower body?
Lower body was really more the quads were tired. The calves were surprisingly not too bad. The IT bands were bad. But I did take 2 spills during the race, nothing crazy. Fortunately, when I fell, it was not rocks around me. So it was okay. So now it's just been the recovery. It's just been the road back. It's taken a little while, right? So you sort of know, everyone out there sort of knows probably like what pace you've been doing your runs at. Yeah. And so when you finish a race like this, that is a long run that you're really running a slower pace. Sometimes you feel like, hey, my body shouldn't really be this tired. Right. But at the same point, you're torn between, hey, I don't want to push it too early. I don't want to experience burnout, especially like you said, everybody's got another race on the calendar. And it's just trying to say, hey, I'm going to ease myself back into it. And when I feel good, my body will let me know. And I don't want to do too much too soon.
And there may be listeners, I'm sure most people listening are not elite trail runners. So I'm just going to break this down. And what he's talking about is central nervous system fatigue. The man is conditioned for running. What I'm saying is he did almost a course record and all that was sore was his arms and his quads a little bit. So the physical recovery was almost instantaneous because that's what his body knows how to do. The central nervous system, the hormonal system, because humans are not designed to do an 11-hour effort it's even 60%. Okay. Yeah. Even at 40%, 11-hour effort is going to, at some point, to just start draining your testosterone, all your hormonal system. Your cortisol is going to go through the roof. And the rebound from that is what you feel over the next week or two. And that's why your heart won't let it go up, because it's in a deep recovery mode. It doesn't want to have to work because it already had to do so much for you for that race. So I'm really big, man, on taking a week, 1 to 3 weeks and honoring your body. And the biggest thing is you can try to lie to yourself, but it ain't going to work because, you know, and you might not even notice it in the beginning of the next training block. It might not be till the end of the next training block you end up with an injury and you're like, what happened? It's like, oh, I rushed into this training block too early. You know, and it's, I just never find it beneficial to rush back. And it's actually, it makes, you need that mental break to just go do what you want to do in training, you know? Yeah. So what is that? So for you said it's been biking.
It's been biking. You're absolutely right. I think you need both the physical break and you need sort of that mental break to sort of recharge. Yeah. And yeah, so sometimes for some people may experience, hey, mentally I'm ready to go. I want to get back out there. Like running is sort of my stress reliever. I want to do it as often as possible. The other side is the physical side. And it's like, hey, well, you know, while my calves might feel good, my quads are still tired. And even just running up, maybe it's just like a slight rise or an incline. Yeah. That might put more stress on your body than what you had expected it to be. And that's what I found when in the first couple of days, just jogging, I was like, sort of just go up a little rise that, you know, you wouldn't even notice in a normal training cycle. Right. But after the race, you're like, it's not like quite running up a mountain, but
most people can't even run that first week. And, you just said that a lot of people might run as a stress relieving. What is running for you?
Yeah. So I think post collegiately, for me, it sort of has been that stress relief around work. It works sort of, I like to run in the morning. I'm a morning person.
Okay.
I love to get up, get it done. I find sometimes in the evening, sometimes I'll go for like a bike ride or something in the evening, but sometimes my body just feels tired after working all day. So for me, the morning is great, and that's world's end 5 a.m. start time.
Right.
I wasn't phased about that at all. I know some people are probably more evening night owls. Yeah. Okay, that was probably the morning start was not them. I know you were rushing to get there based on the video.
Yeah, but I'm a morning person. That was not not planned. It was bad planning. Yeah, that's what it was. It was bad planning. But normally, yes, I'm a 5 a.m. guy almost 6 days a week.
Yeah.
The morning time, just the quiet, the peace of mind, the amount of creativity and clarity you get. And then you couple that with moving and breathing, like running, where it connects everything to the present moment. It's like, it's almost pure euphoria, man. It's better than drugs because it's progressive in a positive sense. Drugs are progressive in a negative sense, so it's like, you can reach for a lot of vices, and people can say what they want about you people running from something with running, but it's everyone's addicted to something, man. So find something that suits your personality and helps you be a better person. And I can't help but feel like running is probably that for you, man. If you've been committed this long to it.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And we have a 2.5-year-old at home, so he's just starting to like run around the development and everything. So keeping up with him keeps my wife and I active as well. So I recognize that, I might not have time to devote to training as much as he starts participating in sports. But having graduated college now over 13 years ago, I just, I did the same road races for like 10 years. And I was like, I just want something different. And the trail running has just been great.
Very excited to see what it brings for you, man.
And I need to work on the downhills for sure, especially in some of the shorter distances.
So I would love to talk to you after this there's just a lot of things, and basically it's really simple. And people like when I over explain sometimes, or sometimes they don't, but I'm going to over explain it. It's like running downhill is deceleration. Okay. So if you want to imagine a sprinter sprinting max force, okay, a sprinter is going to produce 4 times the amount of force of their body weight through each leg, through each step. So a 200-pound man, that's 800 pounds of force through each leg, each step as he sprints. Well, running, even at low intensities, if it's 40% gradient, that's kind of the same force factors. And it's really going to start to put a lot of torque on that quad and that patellar tendon, and really the in the tibialis in the front of that ankle too. So one exercise we could do for you, man, and I suggest it to everybody, is just buy a sled. So we don't have to talk about it now. We could talk about it later. So we don't have to, but dude, just buying a sled and walking backwards with it is literally going to build every single muscle needed for the downhill. It's easy, it's safe, it's progressive. It's just a great piece of equipment, man. And like, I just look at someone, I just get excited because I just look at someone like you and I'm like, if I had him to train him for 3 months and I could get him to do these 3 strength exercises. And, it was just like, I wonder what would happen. I wonder what would happen. But if strength is ever something you're interested in and you just want a couple quick tips, because I really understand that you would probably be very responsible in your training when you need someone to walk you hand in hand. I could just show you a couple. I would love to show you, man, because I would love to just help you on your mission to the top. Because and that's a good mission statement to leave this with, is like, I really want to just give people in the trail running community a platform. Because I'm a big believer, man, is people want to support people that believe in them. And I want to believe in people because I want them to believe in me. So if we just have a community based off of belief in each other and trying to make people better, I don't see any bad in that at all. And what I love about trail running too, is there's no money in it. So there's no assholes in it. You know what I mean? It's like we're just all out here trying to be better, and we can all have conversations with each other and bring to light. You just told us a lot about what made you successful for this race. Now people can take that information, but if we don't have a platform and we don't have, what we're lacking the most right now is community. We just have no community, man. And the whole reason I started, I didn't even own a computer before I started this, because I just got so fed up, man. I just wanted to build a community of like-minded people that were just tired of the politics and bullshit, and just wanted to come around getting better and helping each other. And the trail running community really emphasizes that. And I got to see that a lot today on that trail run, or that Rachel race today, man. It's a beautiful community we got.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
I guess not welcome to it, because you've been doing a lot of trail races before too.
Yeah, but I say I love the community aspect, and there's people, right? And I'm sure you get too. Is like, hey, Aaron, we don't want to hold you back on runs, right? And it's a reminder, like, hey, like I'll run with anybody. Like I love going to the races and the trail runs, and you meet people, you find out what races they're going to do. Everyone is very supportive. Like when we were coming through aid stations, and I spoke to Tristan, he didn't have a crew. Like he didn't need any food or anything. Like, absolutely, my family, like we have stuff, take it. Like there's no. You know, like I feel like you're absolutely right. In a road race scene, everyone's so focused on just getting to the finish line the fastest. There's not as much like camaraderie among the runners, and not as much, support for people. Like for instance, I know when Justine was running by you last when they thought I had gone off course, and you're like, oh shoot, I don't want to win this way. Like that would be my same reaction too. If somebody's been out there and they're ahead of me, I'd be so frustrated. Like, hey, this is I can't accept. Like this wouldn't carry any meaning to me.
And you want to know why I said that? It wasn't an ego thing. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm pissed off or prideful. It was like, I hurt for you, brother. I hurt that you were so dominant the whole day, and then my sorry ass was going to win by default because you got eaten by a bear or some shit. I was just like, I don't want to win like this, man. If I earned it, it's one thing. But he was literally, you could have took like a 45-minute nap and still beat me. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's what really, like, it just hurt me that like that far and something happened. And because no one knew it happened. They quickly found out. You quickly made it to the finish, but it's like, it's like everyone was worried, your parents, everybody. So it's maybe that's something. I have nothing bad to say about that race. And I'm sure it was just, I don't know what it was, but maybe logistics should be based off of course records,
Yeah. And I don't fault anybody, because the volunteers, the 8 stations were phenomenal. And
Always,
I know, right,
always.
With the 19
I don't think anybody expected you to be going that fast.
Right. And I think with the 19-hour cutoff and that being the last aid station, those volunteers are going to be out there for a very long time. And so
people understand volunteers means they don't get paid. They have to deal with our sorry asses for a 19-hour race for free. Because why? The same reason we're here giving it this information, having a talk, to build a community of like-minded people that just want to support each other, man. When I say that, people just think they just overlook it immediately. Like that's not where all the power lies. It's right there. Like people think it's like, oh, I need to go on my individual pursuits to make this money and win this race. It's like, if you have no one to share it with, it's like, who cares, man? Like, it's, man. So I don't know what this channel is going to turn into, or maybe even this podcast, but it's just like, it's refreshing to hear real people tell their real stories about how they're overcoming whatever they're going through in life and kicking its ass, really. It's like, I didn't hear one excuse you made. I just heard a lot of humbleness and ass kicking, and that's refreshing, that's refreshing. I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
What in life excites you the most?
Family, family for without a doubt. I mean, it's, I'll take a quick story. It's just growing up, I was fortunate. My dad, as when it came to all of my track meets, like didn't miss one. There was like one race they missed in high school because they were traveling for work. And like, he called me that night, hey, walk me through how to go. Like my parents were like, and that's something that I hope to be able to do for our kids, to be able to go, whether it's, soccer, band practice, whatever it happens to be, just being present. I think that's the most important thing. And so, and then obviously I feel the same way about the trail running community, right? It's just one big family. Like, I look forward to seeing your results at the 100-miler, hopefully get into like, the race you're talking about. And I love that. I love sort of following other people's success and sort of then reaching out to them and say, how did you train? How did you do this? What did you do nutrition wise? Because again, I feel like nobody tries to conceal anything in the trail running community, which is what I love. It's nothing's top secret that, I don't want to share my tips or tricks with somebody. And I love that. I appreciate that the most.
I just want to make sure we don't go over so we don't lose any of this. But real quick, man, what you're saying is, if I can condense that last, is beautiful. That's beautiful, man. That presence with your family and community, it's everything. And I think if we condense really what you just said about the support of the trail running community, it's we all just need people that believe in us. Okay. Yeah. Like I want to believe in you. And if you believe in me, it's like, do you just feel how that makes your heart feel a little bit more full just hearing it? It's like, I don't know why we downplay ourselves so much and make ourselves so small. Like we're not these big, strong, beautiful creatures that can just help the world by just believing. Like, and I this is my ethos in life. I just want to make being a good person cool. However, I got to do that, man. It's just like, and you're going to do that by being the perfect example for your family. I'm going to do that with my YouTube channel. And then maybe when I start my family, and it's like, we all can take ownership and accountability of that, man. It was great talking to you. I don't want to lose any of this, but I think we might be a little bit over. So I'm going to kick it off, and then I'm going to reach out to you after. Thanks so much, Justin. Take care,
thanks,
brother.
Darren. Yep. Bye.